Hello and welcome again to another episode of the Uranium Market Minute. Today is Wednesday, February 16th, and this is episode number 79. My name is Justin Hune. I am your host. I'm the founder and publisher of the Uranium Insider Pro newsletter, the only investing newsletter that focuses solely on uranium and publishes on a regular monthly basis. Thank you for tuning in. As always, nothing in this video is intended to be investing advice. I'm not your financial advisor, and this is not financial advice. Please always do your own due diligence when it comes to investing, and always take responsibility for your own choices. All right, thank you for being here. Always appreciate everybody and the growing channel. It's very humbling. I do appreciate all the comments. I do read all of them. I comment when I can and I have the time to, but I definitely read them all. So thank you for all of the insight, the suggestions, the comments, the gratitude expressed. It's mutual. Before we get into today's content, of course, I wanted to do a bit of housekeeping. So tomorrow is our February members webinar that will be happening at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. And if you are a member and you are not able to attend live, we will have the recording posted to the members area of the website later on in the day. Please be patient with that. It takes many, many hours to download, edit, and re-upload that video. So usually it will be late afternoon, early evening when the replay is posted. If you are not a member and you're interested in joining us for the members webinar, these webinars are, they're a lot of fun. Okay. They're usually about 2 hours long and we have a really good showing typically. And my partner, Rick, and I get to go deep into the weeds, into the sector, and we go into all of the companies that we own and recommend. And of course, we talk in detail about what the heck is going on in the uranium market. And there's a lot to discuss this month. Of course, we will have a special guest, the CEO of a company that we own and recommend. And we're very much looking forward to speaking with him. The company is doing some great things in the space. So if you are not a member and you are interested, click the link in the description below and we will send you a free sample of a previous month's newsletter. You can check out the type of content that we put out. Of course, along with those monthly newsletters, you will get access to these members only webinars, which in my opinion are a huge value add because we get to go way deeper into the sector, much more than we can with the written word. And any email bulletins, etc. So looking forward to this webinar tomorrow, and we hope to see you there. Second piece of housekeeping is that I mentioned a couple of days ago, and I'll continue to mention it. I will be speaking at Rick Rule's Uranium Investors Bootcamp. That's on March 19th. There's some really exciting speakers there. John Ciampaglia, the CEO of Sprott, will be speaking, as well as the guys from WMC Energy. This is the company that Sprott utilizes to seek uranium and buy uranium in the spot market. So they have a very, very unique perspective on the physical uranium market. And I'm really looking forward to hearing that. So I'm not paid to say this. I'm not being paid to speak or promote it. I'm just sharing this because I think it's going to be a very, very valuable event, considering who is going to be speaking at this event, myself included. So really looking forward to that. Hopefully we'll see you there. Last piece of housekeeping, I will not be here tomorrow or Friday. Tomorrow is the members webinar. So we'll have our hands full with that. Friday, I will be out of town. So the next Uranium Market Minute, episode 80, will be on Monday, this coming Monday. So that will be what, the 17th, 18th, 19th, the 21st. All right. So we will see you next week on Monday. Not much happening in the uranium space. So we're going to fly through the scoreboard and the charts. And I'm going to speak a bit about SMRs in the mailbag section. So daily scoreboard here, spot price of uranium, 43.25 a pound, not moving anywhere up or down. Not a whole lot happening in the spot market today. Sprott likely not in there because they're back down to about 37 million in cash, which they're likely to sit on until they can raise more. They did raise 1.7 million in new capital yesterday. Their year-to-date raise $207.4 million year-to-date in the past 6 weeks, 4.4 million pounds purchased over that same time period. They did close at a slight premium to NAV yesterday. However, the trust is trading down today with the spot price flat. It looks like they were at a slight, maybe that 1% premium for maybe the first hour of trading this morning. So if they were, they most likely took advantage of that to raise a bit more money. URA and URNM both reported new share issuance. URA, another 400,000 new shares, URNM, another 50,000 new shares. That led to 9.5 million in new mandated buying, likely why we saw the sector mostly green yesterday, however, on low volume. Either way, money continues to flow into the ETFs. Money is flowing in to the ETFs. All right, you've heard me say it enough times. We're now at all-time highs in outstanding share counts for the combined ETFs. Let's take a look at the charts. URA slightly down on the day with very low trading volume, seeing a little bit of dip buying come in here, but pretty much directionless. This is not a super bullish chart. This is not a super bearish chart. This is a pretty indecisive chart. We did hold that rising trend line a few weeks back, which was obviously a good sign. However, we are below the 200-day, but the 200-day is rising. Volume is diminishing on this pullback. MACD trying to move up and getting its head above water. RSI just going sideways in that mid-range. Nothing really all that exciting here. Still, we're about 30% off of the highs of November. So I think that judging by the inflow into the ETFs, there's still some money being positioned here, taking advantage of that 30% off sale. But until we see this trade back up above that 200-day on some decent volume, this is an indecisive chart likely to remain in accumulation mode for the time being. Sprott Physic Uranium Trust, boy, if this is not a coiled spring, I don't know what is. This is a bullish chart, trading well above that rising 200-day moving average and has been coiling for many, many months here. Again, because this trades relatively in lockstep with the spot price of uranium, it's been trading very close to NAV over the past couple of months. We did have kind of an extreme low to NAV, close to 10% discount to NAV back in December. We had 15-20% premium to NAV on these highs in September. But besides that, for the most part, it's within a few percentage points of their net asset value relative to the spot price of uranium. So what does that mean? That means the downside risk for the spot price of uranium, in our opinion, is very minimal here, and the upside is great. We're likely to see less than a 10, maybe 20% at the most, downside here. And I would be surprised to see even that at this stage. The upside, of course, I think you could easily see a 2x in a 2-year hold here, and even 3x plus is possible if the market goes crazy. And of course, the elements are aligned to potentially allow for that type of move in the spot price. As a highly liquid vehicle that tracks the commodity. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. All right, mailbag section. I had a few questions come in about SMRs and my thoughts on their potential effect of this market. And so SMRs, what is an SMR? SMR originally stood for small and medium reactors. Okay, so a small reactor, according to the IAEA, would be less than 300 megawatts per year. A medium reactor would be less than 700 megawatts per year. The term has now come to be an acronym essentially for small modular reactors. Why modular? Because they can be sort of daisy chained. You can do one and then add another one, have them all connect to the same grid. Modular because they can be built off-site, constructed off-site, and then assembled on-site. So they can essentially be factory produced. The parts can be factory produced, shipped to the site, and assembled on-site. This makes the widespread production of approved designs, functional designs within any given country far more likely, and the growth of such things could be huge out into the future. Okay, so regular traditional larger reactors are typically much larger. You have the typical reactor, let's say, is on average somewhere around 1,000 megawatts per year. Like China's Hualong 1, they're building a bunch of these. Those are 1,000 megawatts. I mentioned the other day that France is talking about building 6 new EPR2s. These are 1,650 megawatts. These are very big reactors. So the small modular reactors that are being designed now, by the way, there's more than 50 designs on the table currently with various companies, all of them public at this point. NuScale is going, all of them private. NuScale is going public via a SPAC. The Spring Valley Acquisition Company, SV is the ticker. That company will be public at some point this year. So looking forward to having a public means of exposure to an SMR developer. So the small modular reactors currently that are being designed and in some cases developed are from very, very small, like 5, 10, 15 megawatts for, the use case for that would be to power a remote, very small encampment or village, or potentially a mine or something like that, up to about 500 megawatts and everywhere in between. And there's designs all over the place in terms of output size. One of the reactors that is being developed currently, or about to be developed, is called the Natrium reactor. This is built and designed by TerraPower. This is a company that is co-founded by Bill Gates. And TerraPower's Natrium reactor is a 345 megawatt reactor that has a really interesting design element. It has something called molten salt storage. It can store excess energy in the form of heat in this molten salt heat storage that it can pull back into the reactor in order to ramp up the output. So it can go from 345 megawatts output to 500 megawatt output for up to 5 hours. And that's really interesting because, one of the benefits of SMRs is they're much more suited to cogeneration with other forms of energy, and in particular renewables. So you have renewables like wind or solar that obviously are reliable when the sun is shining, the wind is blowing, but if either of those conditions are not in place, the output does this, right? And it can destabilize a grid, as we've seen in Germany, as we've seen in California, with a decent percentage of the grid in California being solar. And we're already having to conserve energy in the evenings with only a couple percent of vehicles on the road as electric vehicles. So those are being plugged in the evening when people return home from work. Of course, the energy draw from turning on lights and televisions, et cetera, appliances in the evening, that when the sun goes down and the energy isn't stored on a grid scale yet, really, you have to conserve unless you have some type of energy that can cycle up to meet that decline in solar or wind. So this SMR in particular, the Natrium reactor, could be very well suited for cogeneration with wind or solar. Very exciting stuff. And this particular reactor is being proposed to be built in the state of Wyoming in a location where there was previously a coal power plant. And this is a perfect use case for SMRs. The coal plants being shuttered in the States over the past 5 years, 10 years, have been more in the range of 200 to 400 megawatts of output. So these SMRs are really perfect. You can plug them right into this existing grid, shut down the coal plant, decommission it, and pop in an SMR, and Bob's your uncle. That's really a fantastic use case for these, and that's really exciting. So this particular Natrium reactor that's being proposed to be built in Wyoming, they're seeking construction permits for the SMR in 2023, okay? With the potential for it to be grid connected as soon as 2026, 2027. My opinion, that sounds overly optimistic. There's always a lot of bureaucratic red tape in the United States, especially with all things nuclear. Even in a state like Wyoming, which is very politically friendly to such things, I think that 2026 is a pie in the sky estimate, probably more like 2027, 2028, but either way, the approvals are in process and it's looking like it's happening. This is really exciting. So what are some of the other benefits of SMRs? So they can be built along a much more standardized design, eliminating the one-off designs of many plants that are currently planned. Like I mentioned, they can be assembled, not assembled, but the parts constructed in a factory, essentially shipped out to the site and assembled on site. Okay, rinse and repeat. So they can be retrofitted to existing coal plants, like I mentioned. Very exciting use case for that. Lower upfront capital costs. All right, so these reactors are much safer in their design than traditional nuclear reactors, which are already pretty darn safe. And they're much smaller and can be built much faster. So the capital costs are far, far lower to a large traditional nuclear reactor. Now, of course, in large, let's say first world countries with large metropolis, even not even first world countries, just large metropolis areas, a large reactor makes sense, right? Especially if it can be built without huge capital costs and faster than a decade. But in many places, lower capital expenditure and faster build time is very attractive, especially if you plug that thing in and it works great. You just tack on another one right next to it and keep going. So that's a big bonus for SMRs, is lower upfront capital costs. They're very well suited for remote regions. Because of the size, the large reactor needs a very large energy grid to connect into. So these could be utilized in vast numbers of much smaller cities and even very remote cities. Let's see, they can be placed in remote regions. They also display enhanced safety performance. Like I said, these designs have some passive safety design elements where the reactor is just much safer in its design. And I'm not a nuclear engineer, so I can't really go into the details on how that works. But the safety of these is a big selling point, and especially for countries that are a little bit gun shy when it comes to nuclear. So that's, we don't expect this, of course, to move actual structural demand for uranium in the short term. Because these reactors are smaller and they run on higher enriched uranium, so we'll have enrichment up to close to 20% of U-235, whereas the fuel assemblies that are for existing larger reactors are usually in the realm of 3.5 to 5% U-235. So it takes some much higher enrichment. But the demand is not likely to really move the needle in the short and midterm. In the long term, this looks to be like a very, very fast growing trend. This is a very interesting development for the nuclear space, and it's obviously extremely positive for nuclear sentiment globally. So it's something we're watching closely, and it's something we're very excited about. And so just wanted to share a little bit of my thoughts on that. And there is going to be a SMR event, a virtual event later on in the year. It is probably more tuned towards industry analysts and actual workers and employees in the nuclear industry. However, it looks to be like a very interesting event. I'm going to post a link in the description below. And we will see you guys next week. Like I mentioned, I will not be here tomorrow due to the members webinar. I will be out of town on Friday. So next week on Monday, I look forward to seeing you again, and have a great rest of your week and a great weekend. And we'll see you next week. Cheers.